Call the meeting to order. Need a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the agenda for Thursday, April the 30th, 2020.
Motion been made,
Second.
seconded.
No, we're going to take care of that as we go. We're going to do it a little differently. Thank
Any
you.
discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Purchase order. Anybody have any questions on the purchase order? I have some, Mr. Davis.
Yes, sir.
Pro lawn, it says basically some treatments. Is that for not?
We treat all the grassy areas now to keep the dandelions and broadleaf.
That's what I thought.
And it's just once a year application.
Okay, and then
You know, dandelions are good for honeybees.
They-
Oh, I thought it was good.
No, I didn't. What?
That's a regrow our weeds.
Good job, Jim.
And then-
Good job.
on page 13, I see DNN Auto Specialist to install motor, material, and labor. I guess that's material and labor excluding the motor.
That we actually took the motor out of one vehicle and put it in another,
Okay.
and that's sheriff's cruisers.
Yeah, I see.
You'll also on page 9, the very second item, you'll see expenditure for United Wreckers in the amount of $1,265. That's the tear. There was an old building behind 750 Baltimore Street. They caught fire a couple weekends ago.
On the other side of the creek?
It is. That was on our property. We had that torn down, and the reason we got quotes. The reason we had United Records come in is because it was full of debris and needles, and I didn't want our employees doing it. So,
Yeah, they're homeless for living in it.
They were. yep. So they removed a mattress and some glass and some syringes and things like that. So that's been cleaned down to the concrete pad.
On the other one, I see where Rick Pugh excavating, hauled in some stone. I didn't know. It was a little bit different number. I didn't know how many tons that was. I meant to ask Penny or Tracy about that this morning.
What page is that on?
It's on page 12 of the purchase order. Maybe have Tracy to slide over to him.
We actually,
Could have been the hauling of.
that's 750 Baltimore Street. That was bringing stone in. We put in a stone, for lack of a better term, stone driveway that comes off the north side of the parking lot around to the back, and created an area where the employees could park. Also, as you look at the back to the left, there's a section that goes off of the main building. The guys actually poured a concrete pad there so that we could get equipment in and out easier.
Yeah.
But that was originally all stone. You guys just re-stoned it?
We did.
Right.
Yep.
What is it? Why are we doing two payments to Apollo? Is it because that they had never sent in an invoice for the third quarter?
Where is that?
That's page 5.
To who, man?
Yeah, Apollo Civic Theater. There's
They
two
did not
third
submit.
quarter and fourth quarter payment.
I've asked Tracy to contact all the outside agencies. What I'd like to do is get all of our disbursements to the outside agencies done by the end of May, so that going into June, when we get our reconciled fund balances the second week in June, we'll have a better idea what our projected unencumbered fund balance will be. The letter notifying the electeds and department heads about unencumbered fund balance, and also our last state budget revision, will go out tonight. So this is actually the third and the fourth quarter for the Apollo, so that gets them paid out. through the rest of the.
So my point in asking that is, if we're giving these outside agencies money and they're supposed to invoice us per quarter, how bad do they really need this money if they're not even invoicing us when the quarters come?
Well, most of them do pretty well. We have not, but just to let you know, we have not gotten the third quarter billing from the I-81 corridor, from senior services, or from the library. And senior services in the library particularly, and I know it's probably because they're shut down, but they're pretty big, pretty big disbursements. And that's one of the reasons I sat down with Tracy earlier this week and asked her to go through and reach out to them and pretty much say, if you want your money, you've got to invoice this, because once we close out the fiscal year, you're done. We're not going to make that money back.
Right, and that was my purpose. Is this because of the situation we're in, or is it
Primarily.
Right. Okay.
The library's been shut down for over a month now. And I know senior services, because of their clientele, they've been shut down for quite some time also.
So do they generally bill at the beginning or the end of the quarter?
It depends. If they really need the money, it's at the beginning of the quarter. If it's something that they maybe don't need quite as much, we have to reach out to them and say, we haven't gotten your second or third or fourth quarter bill.
Anybody else have any questions on the purchase order? Mr. Davis, you have 3 internal budget revisions?
Yes, sir. The council has 3 internal budget revisions before you, all for Department 428 IT. Mr. Wine's requesting that he be allowed to decrease line 219, building and equipment rental, by $5,000. Current unencumbered fund balance is $64,715.23, with 64.77% spent to date. And increase line 223, professional services, by $5,000. That account currently has a deficit balance of $181.69. The next request, again for Department 428, Mr. Wine is requesting again that he be allowed to decrease line 219, building and equipment rental, by $125. Current unencumbered fund balance is $64,715.23. An increase line 218, postage, by $125. That account currently has a deficit balance of $101.97. And then the final request, again for 428, Department 428, Mr. Wine is requesting that he be allowed to decrease line 219 by $10,000 and increase line 211, telephone, by $10,000. We pay all our cell phone expenses for every department out of the IT department telephone budget. That account currently has an unencumbered fund balance of $7,909.38, with 90.87% spent to date. And the infusion of $10,000 into that line item should get us through this current fiscal year.
And Gary said, because he gave us warning, that very tight.
It is.
So, all right. Any questions on the 3 internal budget revisions? Thank you, Mr. Davis. Change in status. We have a change in status received from Mike Lang, Chief Court Marshal for Kip Williams. He would be going from part-time to full-time custodian, with a salary increase from $13.75 an hour to $24,730 annually, effective May 1st, 2020. My read says resignation, but it's a letter of retirement, I'm sure, received from the county clerk's office for Karen Butcher, effective May 1st, 2020. Karen's been with John for quite a while and a wonderful lady, and hate to see her go, but I understand the need to retire.
That's her second retirement, isn't it?
I think she postponed it.
No, I mean, didn't she retire from banking
She was in
several
banking,
years ago? Yeah.
All right. We have approval minutes, April the 16th, 2020, Berkeley County Council meeting. Everyone was present. Any changes or corrections? We have April 21st, 2020, Berkeley County Council meeting. Councilperson Monk and Councilperson Barnhart was not present, so I need Jim or Dan to make a motion to approve those minutes, please.
Move to approve the minutes.
Motion's been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. Abstain. All right, so moving on, we have the county council calendars. Here next Thursday, 9:30 a.m. on the 7th. Boards and commissions. Ms. Monk on WEPM tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Planning Commission on the 4th at 6 p.m. Tuesday at 5 p.m. On the 5th, we have Sewer District and Stormwater District at 6. Wednesday, the 6th, we have 4 p.m. Telephone. Changes or corrections on the boards and commissions. All right. We have bond release from Panhandle Builders, Spring Mills, Phase 10, lots 51 through 86. Engineering Department has made that recommendation. A bond reduction for Panhandle Homes and the Eastern Panhandle, Spring Mills, PUD, Phase 11, Section 2, lots 166 to 191. File number 016-14. Engineering Department has made that recommendation on that reduction. Any questions for Brian while he's here? Thank you, Brian. We have an order to open a bank fund 028 with United Bank for COVID-19. For that's going to start that $100,000 that we got from the state that we want to keep separate.
Yes, sir. Upon approval of Fund 28, we will be putting the $100,000 received from the state into that account, which will be used in accordance with the CARE Act that was established by the state. Primarily, we intend to use it for to get our stockpile of PPEs. We have, and they're going to give us a list of some of the things they need. Yesterday, we did order 500 3-ply masks and 1,000 N95 masks, which will be purchased out of this fund. So we have not, but we will. We'll reach out to them.
And generally, right now, I think the council are thinking that fortunately would be done by population days.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then whoever would be receiving any funds from this understand they're on top of it. Always, we're all accountable for this money.
We are,
In a
but
very, very big way.
the county, because we are the recipients of the $100,000, we have to submit an itemized report to the state on a monthly basis
Right, but I mean,
as we
so-
start to disperse that money.
So, if the city applies for, or the town of Hedgeville applies for money like this, then we're gonna ask for documentation before they get the money, so it's gonna be closest to the pre?
Yes,
Okay,
that's correct.
all right.
And this, the $100,000 that we received from the state is separate from the 41,000 and change that we received notification directly from the Department of Justice, and we've already dispersed some of that money. We're actually going to use some of that to reimburse us for the N95 masks that we purchased, the 7,000 masks that we purchased several weeks ago.
Now, is that the council's grant, or is that the ambulance authority?
No, that's ours.
Okay. All right, need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? The motion carries. Mr. Hess, good morning. You have 5 personal tax exonerations due to office error.
Yes, sir, I do. Good morning.
Good morning.
We had 5 of them, and for the reasons that's listed there, we had to correct last week or so. They total up to $1,058.82.
Entertaining a motion on the 5 personal tax exonerations due to office error. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Good. Thank you.
Sir.
Uh,
Board meeting reports, Mr. Barnhart.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Wish a happy birthday to Willie Nelson.
Willie Nelson. How old Willie?
87.
Huh?
87.
87. Great.
I'm on the road again.
Yeah.
The only meeting I had this week was the Berkeley County Public Service Water District. They approved the design plans for overlook at Riverside Apartments, which is up there behind the food line in Harlow, 156 apartments. Whispering Pines, which is Borough 51, 179 town hall, and Rocky Ridge, what's up by hospital, 132 town hall.
We're about 500 there, huh?
Yeah. They reviewed the third quarter financials and seem to be in good shape. Everybody pays the bill. Updated activities for COVID-19. They got people working at home and hooking up water meters and pricing and all that kind of stuff. And in consideration of supplemental parameters, resolution for the water revenue bonds, Moody's rated them an A2.
That's good.
Yeah. That was the meeting.
Oh,
Most of my meetings were by phone and paperwork things coming in. Working with WD Core with landmarks and Roundhouse on there. First, those Pettigrew Monument, National Park Service has sent in a proposal. Right now, insurance, that's on, which is the company that insured the vehicle that had it. Everything's on hold with them about what's going on. So we've got a proposal, we've got an appraisal, from there
Is it on hold from US Lawn or is it on hold?
from the insurance company. They're not moving forward on processing it at the moment. Paperwork's in. US Lawn, whatever insurance company they have, I don't know. And of course, very thankful, and of course Doug sent it over. I've got a picture of the Doughboy now. Is asleep at the Royce Hosiery building. And then,
laying down.
yes, I only got to take a nap.
You see, this was Gerald Johnson, something in history.
Do that, and we're going to do all
You
that.
read the Journal Junction?
Yeah, I don't see if he or the county council transgressions that.
But a lot of things going on, most of which are meetings. I'm working with Chad to set up the phone conference situation for landmarks. So there's a lot of things that we're working on with the bylaws, and most of us don't have the technology. So Chad's trying to get us to that level. So we're sending our emails in, and we're going from there to see. And that's all I have at this particular point. There's a whole, but everything. It's like everything else. When all this slope get through it. There's going to be a whole pile of stuff because it's going through the pipeline. Right now, it's just holding at the door. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Vice President Delia.
I did not have any meetings this week.
Councilperson Whitaker.
The only thing I had was, Friday I was on the radio, teleconference. We played out there. Everybody come in. That's good.
And
How'd they go?
I thought it went pretty good.
That was WPN.
WPM.
the ambulance authority meeting was canceled. And I know that we'll probably be meeting next week, or next month, I'm sure. Okay, so, board and commission vacancies, any activity on that?
Mr. President, I move to reappoint Dean and King Gold to the Eastern Panhandle Home Consortium for another term.
Okay.
Second.
Motion been made, seconded. Any, discussion on the motion?
Yeah, he's good enough. Gives the banking overview.
City National Bank, right?
He's a good guy.
I think he's the most famous man in Berkeley County. See his picture on all the billboards.
Yeah. All right, motion been made, seconded. Any discussion on that? If not, all in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? The motion carries. Any other activity?
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to reappoint Paul Orsini Jr. for the Berkeley County Development Authority.
Motion's been made,
Second.
second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Is that it? All right, currently, we have an interview for Board of Commission vacancies, Clifton Reinhardt. You're a candidate for the fire board, and, Clifton, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do and why you want to serve. There, as you know, Clifton, the makeup of the fire board is 3 people from the public, 3 people from the volunteer fire departments, and you're applying for a position that's vacant currently from the fire side.
Correct.
Okay, all right. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you want to serve, and what do you want to see done in the future if you become a member?
Okay, a little bit about myself. My name is Cliff Reinhardt. I currently am employed with the federal government. My background in real life, or my full-time background is after serving in the Marine Corps, I was a career firefighter in Frederick. I left the fire department and was a police officer in South Carolina. I then got into the railroad I'd like to say, I guess it was to make a better living for my family, which I did for about 12 years as a manager with CSX Railroad. Moved all over the East Coast about every 2 years into a new management position. After just under 13 years, I got tired of moving. I spent 4 years in Jacksonville, Florida. Hated Florida. Decided that it was time to have a better life for my family, my kids. I wanted to give them a place to call home and go to high school, and we picked here. I quit the railroad, took the largest pay cut of my life, and went to work for the federal government. I moved up here in 2015.
Did you ever work with the gentleman down in Jacksonville, Dean Menifee?
Yes, I did. And he has a brother, Don Menifee.
Yep.
And yes, I've worked with all of them. They were in the road foreman, senior road foreman vengeance.
Yeah, they originally, or they used to live here.
Yes, they did. When I was in Jacksonville, I was in charge of the discipline of our union employees.
Okay.
So I handled suspending and firing about 34,000 employees.
So you're used to a lot of turmoil then, huh?
That was pretty much my day. I had a staff of managers and clerks that did the investigations and the transcripts, and then I oversaw to make sure that everything was handled per company policy.
Mm-hmm.
And I would communicate with the local division managers, the 10 division managers, and make sure that they weren't over disciplining people. With it being a union shop, everything was done by contract. So every once in a while you'd have some emotions take effect and they'd want to overstep the boundaries of the union contracts, which was never a good thing because we would possibly terminate people, and 3-6 months later we'd bring them back and have to pay them, and it was kind of my job to make sure that we handled everything fairly. Sometimes it was some uncomfortable conversations with people above my pay grade.
Corporate, yeah.
And other times it was most of all, it was dealing with the union reps and stuff like that. But I quit and went to work for the federal government. I work for U.S. Department of Transportation. I'm a hazardous materials inspector for them. I cover a pretty large area as a hazmat inspector: Maryland, Northern Virginia, West Virginia, and Central Pennsylvania. And when I moved up here and had a lot more free time because I had a normal schedule for the most part, and a 40-hour-a-week job, I became a member of Bennington Fire Department. I've been a volunteer firefighter since I was, as a junior, 14 years old, and as a senior member, 16. where I came in Maryland, you only had to be 16 years old to actually be a firefighter, not 18 like West Virginia requires. But I became a member here. I volunteered. I've seen how everything works. Berkeley County is definitely a unique, operates a lot different than a lot of places. Some good, some bad. But I've seen how it works. Through Bennington, I've been a firefighter, a driver. Last year, I was the assistant chief. This year, I'm just a firefighter. I bought a cabin in Franklin and spend my weekends in the
Franklin,
mountains
West
now.
Virginia?
Yes. So now I figured spending a lot of my weekends looking out over the mountains and spending time with my kids.
Right. Good place.
Yes, it
Gone
is
up on-
beautiful.
Go up on Reddish Knob, any?
No, I have not. I bought my cabin back off Dickerson Mountain, just south of town. But I absolutely love it. I love being out in the mountains and hunting and fishing and shooting with my kids.
Gorgeous area going down through that valley there.
Yes, it is. So one of the things I mean, the reason why I'm here is obviously, you know, the through the association it goes department to department. Really, the three names getting brought up and having three candidates for fire board is what brought my name into this. I would have probably been a candidate next year for the next vacancy, but because of the three names and trying to get people from the departments,
Right.
that's why my name was submitted. I would have been submitted. I can only assume I probably would have been submitted next year for the next vacancy on council.
Yeah,
But
just so
I-
everybody understands, there's a rotation between the
Yes,
volunteers,
yes,
fire
correct.
stations on who's up for the next.
Correct, and
Right.
Bennington would have been next year's vacancy. Depending on how this goes, I might be up next year.
Right, I understand.
So, but one of the things I think I've got an outside perspective. I haven't. Sometimes when you're somewhere, just anywhere, you see things around you, and if you don't know how it is other places, you don't know how things can be tweaked, how things can be fixed. How, you know, not everything needs to be changed. There's definitely a ton of things in Berkeley County that I love and I think are awesome, and I would hate to see this place become like across the river. But there's also some things that, you know, you have to move forward. Things have to progress. People have to work together. And I think that if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, you keep getting the same thing over and over again. And sometimes it's extremely positive to, I hate to say bringing someone completely from the outside, because then a lot of times that just causes turmoil too, but it's people that have different perspectives and have seen and participated and done other things. It's a good thing to have those ideas and have an open mind on, you know, sometimes change. And it seems that, to me, that change is a very difficult thing many times. And it's, from what I've seen in the last 5 years in this county, from the county to Bennington Fire Department, my experience at the fire department, change and outsiders are not taken very kindly quite a bit. So, I mean, I dealt with that in Bennington, and I'm sure, you know, everywhere else it can be kind of a little pushback on some things.
So you're a part-time employee for the ambulance?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I do. I also do work part-time for Berkeley County Ambulance Authority. I've been an EMT since I was a teenager, or essentially, and I wanted to have my EMT and be able to do a little bit here in Berkeley County. So about a year ago, I guess it was, I actually went to Berkeley County Ambulance Authority to be a volunteer, and they don't let anybody volunteer, so they put me on as a part-timer, and I work part-time for the Ambulance Authority.
Barnhart, do you have any questions for Clifton?
Out of what station you work out of Bennington for the ambulance authority?
Wherever they need me. I didn't go to work for them to be very picky. I just wanted to help out when I could help out. So whenever they have a vacancy and I have the time off and am not with my kids, I'll work wherever.
Are you familiar with the other volunteer fire departments who help them
Yes.
figure out?
I'm actually the secretary on the association.
Oh, okay.
And over the 5 years with being the assistant chief and being an officer at Bennington, I've gotten pretty familiar with the other departments.
So you can identify with the other departments for the purposes of fire service.
Yes. And I've been a career member of a combination department with, I was a career side in Frederick County, Maryland, when I think we had 60 career firefighters in the entire county. When I got hired, I was recruit class 2 with Frederick County, Maryland, when it was all volunteer and they were just starting to put paid people in stations, which is painfully familiar with what's going on here. But yes, I've experienced that. And I've been all volunteer departments, even down in PG County. So,
Smart.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for applying, and you have the credentials and the interest. That's very good. I have a question, just like our president did. You know a guy named Jeff Ward?
who?
Jeff Ward, he was signed to Jacksonville from here. He's from Edinburgh.
I do not.
Okay.
If you knew what department he was in,
Well, it's been a long time, and as I said, they moved there for quite a while.
there's a lot of
Well, you
employees.
said 34,000.
Well, and Jacksonville, with it being the headquarters, has 3 different. I work in 2 of the 3 buildings in Jacksonville, and there's a lot of people there. Unfortunately, there's actually a lot more people that probably know me than I know them. Just from, I used to have people have to call me all the time, and I still, with my job now with the federal government, I have people come up to me and go, "Do you remember me?" I used to teach we call it hearing officer. When we hold disciplinary hearings, the actual little disciplinary hearings, I used to teach the training for the manager. So I went around quite a bit, met people, but the name does not ring a bell.
So you think that you won't have a problem with the meetings? When are the meetings?
Thursday nights.
Thursday evening?
No.
Thank you very much.
The only bad thing about those meetings is when you get out for a long weekend to Franklin, it kind of hinders your time that you can leave.
Well, with my kids, I have my kids 50% of the
Have to
time,
wait out of
so
school.
I wouldn't be. Normally, I don't go until Friday. Now, right now, with them not being in school, we haven't had
Yeah,
some long
yeah.
weekends.
Really, hey?
Well, thank you for applying. That's more importantly though. Thank you for your service in the military. Thank you for being a firefighter and the time you're doing with the ambulance authority as well. I think those are all very, very important things for our community. You've done a very good job of explaining why you would be a benefit, and I think from your education or experience, I guess, with policies and being able to understand how policies are implemented, I think it would be a benefit to have somebody like you to be able to sit on that board to understand from both sides what policies are and help work to a common goal. So appreciate you coming in today.
Thank you. I also, I know that I spoke about policies. One of my positions with the railroad was I was a superintendent in Hamlet, North Carolina, and which was just an operations. I ran a hump yard like Cumberland. It was actually quite a bit bigger than Cumberland. But so in that position, there was a lot of budgeting. I had about an $8 million budget that I was responsible for when I was superintendent, that I had to make sure under all accountability that there was no over budget, and saving money when we could save money, and using resources properly to make sure we got the job done and didn't overstep my budget. So I do have in some of my positions, I've dealt with dealing with budgets and spending money and trying to spend it somewhat wisely. I did at some point in time say many times, don't fail cheaply, which there were times that the budget went out the window when it came to mission accomplishment.
Thank you.
Again, thank you for your service, like Mr. Gillier said. You have explained yourself very well, and one thing you mentioned about change. And the easiest way that I dealt with change is I worked with myself in my earlier years, and they taught you how to deal with change on a daily basis, especially the department I was in. And it was hard for me at first, but then I realized, not all change is bad. I mean, much as I griped about it, I realized that, it's for a reason. And changing is rapid here right now. There's not a brand new book that was put out to help deal with COVID virus. So the books get written, and we're learning a lot about it, and there's a lot of change coming up. I see a new normal.
The world is going to be different after this. I think there's going to be a lot less people working from offices and a lot more people at home. And
I think with the mindset that you've had, you understand that important part about change and how good it can be. Some not, but I think for the majority of reasons, again.
thank you.
Clifton, you touched on a few things of your expertise with the railroad, and you also touched on some things that a career firefighter and a volunteer situation, all volunteered in a combination. You also mentioned about a little bit of turmoil between the volunteers and fire board, probably more so probably the county council. It seems like everybody is wanting to do the same thing. The volunteer fire stations are there to protect their community, right? This council is here to protect the community and the taxpayers of Berkeley County and things of that nature. So, with you being in that position, it seems like, and if you're a vice chair, that means that you was there when I came down to talk to Bennington about the future. Actually, it was more so they wanted to focus on the MOU, but also you realize that this council has realized that the volunteers would prefer help, right? Additional help.
Are you referring to in February?
Yeah. Yes.
I was in Ireland on vacation,
Okay.
so I missed that meeting. But I was there the last time, but yes.
It was, you know, I don't shy away from anything. So it was 30 minutes of beating up on Doug Copenhaver, which that's fine. That's what I'm here for. And I think when we got done, we had a very good meeting. We worked through some differences and issues. We may have not agreed with one another, but we understood each other. So, and I'm not. I just want to. I'm more. I'm not asking these questions to find out where you stand. I want to know, get a better feel for how you would address the question.
Okay.
It seems like I said, that this council actually went out and was very supportive of the volunteers and trying to find a way to get them the funding to increase the paid staff that so many of them want. But yet then it was like, no, it's got to be our way instead of your way, or vice versa, you know. How do you deal with that? How do you, with the experience you had with that transitioning, and plus, do you answer that question? I'll ask you the next one.
From me sitting back and observing this process, obviously I have my opinion from my position and everything. I think that the common goal is the same. I agree with you 100% that county wants to transition and wants to increase staffing. The volunteer departments want to do this. There's a lot of things that are the same. I honestly think that everything that has failed or the issues that have come up have been from, but really piss poor communication from both parties. It's been, I think the whole thing has been handled very poorly. For something to where you have two groups trying to get to the exact same place, but because of one group perceives that they're just got to do it their way, the other group perceives that, it's being done, and the two groups aren't openly communicating. I thought it was a very positive thing a year ago when there was supposedly a committee formed to try to develop how to move forward, and it met like one time and it was never met again. It was the fire chiefs for how to, I guess, develop the career side with the funding. I wasn't involved in it, but I think the failure has come down 100% to poor communication on both sides. And it's there's people involved that I think the people involved need to be involved, but there's people being left out. And
Well, just so you understand, and I'm going to dig into, because I want to fill you out,
Mhm.
right? There's a lot of things that there during those meetings that was talked about, but the problem is if the paid staff in the volunteer stations are employees of the county,
correct,
right?
correct.
They're not employees of the volunteer fire stations.
That's right. I understand that.
So
But they operate under the authority of the volunteer fire departments.
They operate within the volunteer departments,
Correct. But
right? Which is
they can't operate without the fire departments.
correct,
That's what.
somewhat correct.
So there's a lot of,
All right, so
I think there's a lot of responsibility that comes back
right.
on everybody there. You've got employees of the county, but they're riding fire trucks, they're riding volunteer fire trucks and have essentially their authority given to them by the fire department that I hate to say authority, it's kind of a poor choice of words, but they couldn't, if the volunteer fire department wasn't there, they couldn't get on that fire truck without the book. They're not a fire department, so they have to operate under the umbrella of a volunteer fire department.
All right, so you do know that the intentions on that was to, just like the day staff. I mean, this county council doesn't want to spend or create an additional fee charge to the taxpayers if the volunteers can get the trucks out and take care of things, right?
Correct.
So the biggest thing that we see in the volunteers is the time it takes to get the fire truck out the door. And rightfully so. If you're a volunteer, you might be home, especially at night. You gotta get dressed, go to the fire hall, get the fire truck and get to the scene. So the intentions was to be able to get that truck out at 24/7, 365, the same way it does from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And hopefully volunteers, rather than get dressed and go to the station, they get dressed and go to the scene. Makes sense.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? All right, so, and then how do we rank? How does the county rank in funding for the volunteer fire stations throughout the state of West Virginia? Do you have any idea?
I'm sure it's probably one of the highest with the fire fee. I mean, there's a place in West Virginia that I can't believe they have concrete floors in their firehouse when I drive by them, but yes, I'm sure Berkeley County is very high. I'm also pretty confident that the funding's probably extremely high, if not the highest, one of the highest in the state, but it's probably also the highest or pretty close to the highest in call volume and demand for fire service, which obviously the more service you provide, the more expensive it is to provide it because fuel, maintenance, new apparatus and all of that. I mean, if we sat in, you could look at the difference between two stations in this county and go from Baker Heights or Beddington to Back Creek Valley. Back Creek Valley runs 300 calls a year. Beddington's running 1,200. Obviously, the cost of operation of Beddington is probably 3 times as much, and the wear and tear on apparatus, the maintenance. So I get it that it probably does have a huge, way more cost, and it's a lot more responsibility on the council members with the funding and everything. But that's not because the county is just generous. It's because the cost is so much more to operate a fire service as it gets busier.
Okay. So are you said you were a paid firefighter
I was
in Frederick
for about
County,
4 years.
Maryland, right?
Yes.
Did you feel that that was a big benefit to the community for you to be a paid firefighter to get the truck out in a timely manner?
Absolutely.
Do you think that's a big benefit to the community in Berkeley County?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, I've supported it since I think that we need career staffing of some sort, probably 24 hours a day. I think that's an important thing. I also think it should be fiscally responsible and not overdone. I mean, I think there should be checks and balances. I don't think it should be all or nothing.
I agree.
So,
And I agree. And absolutely, South Berkeley, back a couple years ago, had the best plan. One of the best plans. I'm not saying there wasn't any others out there. It was 2 and 2. 2 at their main station, 2 at their substation. because we need to cover the area better, right? A lot of our substations don't get anything out at all. Right? Your old substation is being used for EMS, but very seldom does a fire truck go out of that substation.
That's not, it's
Okay,
about 50/50 probably.
okay. All right.
But
And I'm not going to argue with you because you're probably going to be right, not wrong. Right?
I know because that's where we hang out a lot of times.
Right, but there is some substations that don't get any activity.
I understand.
Right, so it's under, and so we got to be able to cover the entire county, in my opinion. And the whole thing is, we don't want to do any of it. Right? As a matter of fact, it would be up to the volunteers to do it this time. Right? With the back. No, but I just wanted to send you feedback, and I wanted to. I appreciate your opinion and respect your opinion, and as anyone else's.
I mean, I came to county council when those discussions went on and sat here and listened to when we discussed the career staff. And I was very disappointed over the way things were handled. It was very, for a topic that the people sitting in the audience wanted not the exact same thing, but wanted the same end. They wanted career staffing. Everybody requested, from my interpretation, everybody in the county, every department requested it. Everybody had a different thing of what was needed. And I know that that's not the volunteers determine who the county council hires. However, it was very discouraging walking out, and I mean, I'm sure that you have a different take on it, but I walked out of there with the opinion that the departments were basically said, you take what we're going to give you, or you get nothing, and we're going to tell them it's your fault if you get nothing. And it was pretty discouraging to walk out of here going, for 5 departments that want career staffing, and to have a county council say, take it or leave it, you take what this man and we say you need, or you don't get anything. And it really, and this is my opinion, what I took away from it. It was very discouraging, and it was really kind of horrible. I walked out of here and went, I can't believe that we just got told you want help, we want to help you, but you're going to take what we get or you get nothing. And that was, in my opinion, exactly what was said. You either take what we tell you you're going to get or you get nothing. And we were like, well, where does this come from? We have these propositions, and it really was kind of discouraging. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I'd like to be part of some of these things, because I think that communication could be better.
So what do you tell the people that's underserved? What do you tell the people that's in a community with 1,700 homes or 1,700 residents or more that wants better service, and you're an elected official, right? You're the one that's been elected by the majority of the people to be in your position, and you don't get cooperation from the other side when you're in this seat. What do we do?
Is it cooperation or sitting down and taking what you give them?
Cooperation.
See, I don't, from my perspective, I don't think it's been I do think there's been, there has been some lack of, but I think I tell them I would do better and try to work with them better and try to figure out what the problems are, and not tell them you take it or you don't get anything. It really, to me, I think it's just been everything's been a really poor communication, and I think there's been a lot of stuff done behind closed doors that should have involved everybody. And when the departments read stuff in the newspaper about what the county's done or trying to do, I think that really pisses people off. If people did things for Berkeley County and were trying to do something, and you woke up in the morning and opened the nuppaper and you saw that they were trying to do something to change county council without y'all knowing about it, I think it would probably upset you a little bit. And there's been numerous times to where things have been read in the newspaper that was never taken to the volunteer departments, and it's upset people. Especially, once again, on a matter that both sides want the same end to. Maybe not exactly the same ways, but I think the volunteer departments would want the better service provided to the citizens. That's the goal. But when somebody's pulling up in a piece of equipment, let's say a county piece of equipment that says Berkeley County all over the side of it, would you want someone else saying, well, we're going to put that person in it, and we're going to put who we want in it, and they're going to do what we tell them to do, but they're going to represent you? It's not going to happen. You're going to say, hell no, we're not going to let somebody drive around in a Berkeley County Public Works truck that somebody else hired, somebody else controls, and they have to work under our authority as a Berkeley County Public Works, but we get what they give us, and that's it. So you got to understand. But if there was communication and you worked with that staffing company and you got an equal understanding, then you would feel comfortable with what you're getting. And I just don't think that there's that comfort of you saying, well, we're going to give you what's best for us, give you what's best for you, and we just got to sit back and take it. I think there should be some
this
communication.
actually turned in a whole lot more than
I'm
just
sorry,
an
I'm
interview.
sorry. I just think
and you know what?
communication
And you
is
know
the
what?
big thing.
Sometimes you can say too much in an interview
Yeah.
and hurt yourself.
Well.
And to be honest with you, 100% honest, I'm just sitting here listening to what you have to say, and I think that you think that our job is not to create a budget, that our job is not to allocate funds to different entities, and that is our job.
Oh.
That's what we're supposed to do.
Correct.
So if we come up with a budget and you being the fire side want more than what we can budget, you're telling us what we should do is take money away from another entity in order to give it to the fire department, so the fire department can have what they want. And so you're telling me that by what you're saying that we're not doing our job right,
No.
because we should be listening to the fire department before we make our funding allocations, and that should be part of the conversation. We here listen to requests.
Correct.
And once we get requests, then we determine how to supply that need the best that we can with what we have to deal with. I got one question for you.
Yes, sir.
Do you think that the fire board, the fire departments, and the council are all should be equal equal partners in a conversation on how to fund or create the fire board moving forward, or do you think one should be in front of the others?
Are you referring to fire board or career service?
All three.
Obviously, and I know what you're saying about the budget, and I agree. This is the budget. You all create it, and you can't do stuff if you don't have the money to do it. I get that, but I do think that there should be equal shareholders. The county council, if fire board is the funding of the career side or the paid service in this county, then I think they should have a stake in it. As of right now, the fire board has no stake in the county employees. They're not paying their salaries. They're not part of the MOU. They're not. I know what they're on there, but,
Structured to have.
right. But so, no, I don't think fire board should be part of a for career side between as the way it stands right now. If it were to go forward to where the fire fee was funding career service, then yes, I think all three parties, because you've got all three. You've got the county that employs the employees. You'd have fire board that was paying salaries, and you would have the fire departments where the people are working out of. And I think all three of those parties need to come together, communicate, and come up with some compromise. And I guess that's the best way of saying it. It needs to be. I think there's going to need to be compromise on everybody to make this work, and it's going to take some open minds, and it's going to take people everywhere on all sides to swallow a little bit of pride, step back, and compromise to what's best for the citizens, and at the same time, what works out for funding, what works out for employment, and what works out for assignments. So I do think all three, the way it was proposed with fire board paying salaries and the fire fee increase, I think all three parties would need to be involved in the planning.
The fire board doesn't pay the salaries, the fire board was intended to collect the fee.
Right.
The county council pays the salaries just like, so they would be county council employees just like they are
Right.
today.
But the fire board would pay the county council for the employees.
So
So,
subcontract.
yes.
Now, just one thing, one last thing, and this is going a little bit further than what we need to go. But
I think we went there already a lot
yeah,
further than we
but,
need to
but
be.
it's good dialogue, you know. Just so you understand some things, the reason we've got time to do this is because we've got a gap in our schedule anyway. So this council, when we receive a letter from the fire department saying we can't do our jobs any longer and I need help now, we have to react now, right? We don't have time for the association to take 3 years to get a decision back to us on how they want it done properly. It's like the box calls. It's going on 3 years, right? We don't have that time when it comes to saving lives, nor does the volunteer fire departments, right? I'd hate to be in a position like this or in your position and know that I could have saved a life if we would have just done our jobs, right? And I said that both, right? That's why it's so important. When I get a letter from a fire department that says we need it, we're telling you right today we can't do our job. I can't push this, or as Dan's saying, I can't kick this can down the road for 3 years. So, because I felt very strongly it was the county council's job to provide that service if the volunteers would elect to do it and couldn't provide it at the level they should. Since then, we've also had Back Creek Valley said we'll take 24/7, 365. And another fire department that said back a year ago when we went through this, we probably be okay for right now, but you know, wouldn't be a bad idea if you do it, start the fee, and then we'll tell you when we need the service. That doesn't work because we can't collect the fee and not provide the service. All right. But now that fire department is saying, hey, I don't know much longer we can keep on. So there is an urgency from the association side and the volunteer side to get their heads together to say, okay, do we want it or do we don't, right? But you got to understand too that the county council can't say, okay, well you want 4 in your main fire station, you want 3 in this fire station, you want 2 and 2, and you want, and you don't want any. We can't do it that. We got to have some type of uniform across, because if you're collecting a fee from the people back at the woods versus a fee from someone that's beside Baker Heights Volunteer Fire Department, they want the same service. So I think we've had great dialogue, and I hope you don't take this conversation as being negative. I think it's very positive.
No, I have no, and I understand the thing, because I tell you, as I live in Spring Mills, and if I found out that Hedgesville had full-time people and Bennington had their people taken out, I'd be pissed, going, well, what am I paying for?
Right.
But
the same fee. But you understand that the county council can't break it down in call areas, because what happens if one of the fire stations fail and this fire hall from another, that's facts out there. If Bennington, Hedgesville, South Berkeley, or Back Creek Valley fails, Baker Heights is on their way, right? That's not fair to Baker Heights, and it's not fair to the people that's in Baker Heights, because now we're taking their territory. You know what I'm saying? So it's very. We thought a lot about what we was doing, and everything of that nature.
But there's that circumstance all over the United States to where there's paid fire departments and staffing and I understand as county council you're not looking at one department, you've got to look at the
We've got to
overall
look at
county.
the whole thing.
I get that, but there's no guarantee that Baker Heights might not be out on a cardiac arrest doing CPR somewhere while Back Creek Valley fails, and you have a company out of Virginia or Berkeley, or not, Morgan County come over. So it happens everywhere, and I've been in paid systems before to
But
where
I'm saying if what I meant by that is if we turn back around and we had some discussion with some fire halls says, well, do it in magisterial or run areas, not magisterial district, but run areas. Well, if we charge people in Baker Heights for a fire fee because they got 24/7, 365, and that fire truck leaves that area, that's when it becomes an issue. You know what I'm saying? Because that run area is paying a fee. We could do it. We can do it by run area.
That was the
but
way
that's-
Frederick
that's
was
not-
when I worked
That's
there.
not a fair way for us.
It was done by when there were, I believe there were 3 different fire tax levels. There was the all volunteer level, there was a day staff level, and then there was 24-hour staff level. And as the departments decided to become career, they moved to a different tax
tiers.
schedule. But, and we have went way off, I'm sure. I mean, you, Mr. Doulier, you definitely hit on that. But I think it really just comes down to everybody wants the same thing. And I just think it's really, there's been bad communication. Some of it has to do with personalities. There's people involved in the conversations that I don't enjoy talking to. I think there needs to be some new faces, some fresh perspective. And there's, for 3 groups or 4 groups or 5 groups, count the citizens, for so many people that want the same thing, something needs to change to make it to where everybody can figure out a way to make it happen. And it seems like right now the fire fee hasn't went through. It's kind of come to an impasse right now for the time being. And unless something changes, it's gonna keep hitting a brick wall. And I think that's a good reason to have some change in different places, to get some fresh ideas. And honestly, if you've got 20 people voting and they're all voting for the same thing, it's like Congress. If everybody's voting red or everybody's voting blue, nothing's going to get done until somebody either new comes in and says, hey, let's open up our eyes and do something different.
And Clifton, I hope you understand, I enjoy this conversation, because if I didn't, I'd cut you off. Right? So, and I enjoy it enough to continue on. So if you was in this seat, right, and you went to some volunteer fire stations and they said, yes, we want additional service, but by the way, we won't help you get the petition signed. How do you handle that? Because this council as a body, all 5 of us elected to triple the fire fee. So we went to bat for the volunteers to do exactly what they're going to end up needing here before long, because it was what was needed. But yet when you go to the volunteers and it says, 2 of them said that yes, we want the service, this is what we want, this is how we want it, and by the way, we're not going to help you get the petition signed. If you're in my seat, tell me what you would do.
Well, obviously,
And you don't have to.
No. I mean, I could tell you what I think I would do. And I would never be in your seat because I don't want to be county council. But I think I would try to figure out I mean, it's like kids. Kids come and ask you for something, and if you put stipulations on it, and they say, well, wait a second, no. I mean, there's got to be a reason there that if you're asking for something, but you're not willing, but I hate to say
Don't answer, but you do also understand Robbie Robinson, which I dearly respect, right? Him and I and some other members of the fireside had a meeting 5 years ago down in the conference room when it's down the hall, and his conversation that day is, why do we have to do so much for the county council and the fire board when we never used to have to do anything, right? We didn't have to answer for anything. And he says, we used to get $10,000 from the county commission. But each fire hall, I don't care how you cut it, if this council is responsible in funding electively $4.1 million to fire safety in Berkeley County. So it's went from $10,000 to $750,000 per fire hall. Things have changed a little bit.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? And so we're there. So for a volunteer fire station to say we're trying to push them out is absolutely wrong. If that's the case, they'd still only get $10,000 a year. We're here to help them, but we expect the same respect back is what we're trying to do. So we can't do what they do, and they can't do it without us. So you're exactly right. How do we come together and get this resolved for the people that we serve?
Right now, I think just, once again, I've said it a dozen times, there needs to be better communication, and right now, there needs to be some trust built on both sides.
Okay, so my last question to you,
Yes, sir.
and I think I know the answer. You have people on this side of the room, you have people on this side of the room. Are you the man who's gonna come to the center?
I'm going to do what's right for the citizens.
Okay. All right, that's all I got.
I think this has probably been one of the best interview conversations.
And that's why I'm enjoying it so much.
Well,
Because I don't look for someone to tell me, I don't look for someone to agree with me, but I want you to be able to, I want us to be able to come to the table and find a solution to the situation. Because if we don't do it before long, it's gonna be a huge problem.
Well, this whole topic, and I know we went from an interview for fire board to the fire fee and the career guys, which has been the majority of this. Me stepping back, there's a whole bunch of stubborn people that aren't willing to
That's
work
where I
together.
was going.
You know what? I don't agree with that statement. I don't think there's a bunch of stubborn people. I think the more that you get into it, if you have the experience that you're talking about, you will understand that there is policies, and these policies dictate what each entity can do. And it's no different than when you were in the military. There is a chain of command, and the as it goes down the line, the guys below it. You guys have a chief in your fire department. He has more authority than you do, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, and there's a reason for that, because if everybody in the fire department decided what goes on a daily basis, how would you get anything done? You wouldn't. That's the whole purpose of the chain of command, is so that the guy further up the line makes the decisions, hands it down to the guy below, and it keeps working down till it gets to where the deed is actually done. And if I think that's very important, that people that sit on that board can understand that chain, because if you don't understand that chain, then you think, hey, these people are being hard-headed because they're not agreeing with the guys on the other side, because they're saying they want this, and these guys are saying they can only provide this, and that's all they can do. There's a reason for that, and that's why it's set up. That's why the structure's put in place.
And we did stray off a little bit, or a lot, but that's the atmosphere in the fire board. All right, it's even goes as far as, and you haven't been around long enough, but I keep a rear view mirror on my desk, because from the fire side, I keep hearing about this happened 20 years ago, this happened 30 years ago. If we're looking in the rear view mirror and not looking out the windshield, we'll never make a change.
We'd still be using leather buckets.
Yeah,
Fires out.
you know what I mean? So, and then the whole structure of the fire board is, to me, a little bit messed up, because you have 3 positions from the fire side, but you have 5 fire halls. So sometimes, historically over the years, it's like, well, you take care of your fire hall and you don't care about mine. So the turmoil that we had back and forth is more so, wasn't so much on the subject that I was asking about, it's how you was going to deal with it. You understand? And I think you dealt with it pretty good. So I've enjoyed. I'm just like Mr. Whitaker. I've enjoyed the interview.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
I
time.
think I got educated just as much as the next guy.
All right. Guess we're up for a break.
Break.
Yes, sir. Just so you know, Sheriff Keller has notified us.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I'm so sorry about that. All right. Let's take a quick break and come back. All right, just skip right over Mr. Davis and go to our discussion of COVID-19. We have Bill Kern. Are we up and running, Penny? I'm sorry. we So we have Bill Kearns from the Berkeley Morgan County Health Department here to discuss about the future plans.
Y'all get prayed for today because I think you need it.
Well, we did. We got prayed over by Mr. Whitaker.
Oh, okay. It didn't work.
It wasn't a joke, it was the truth.
How's your barber doing, Bill?
Huh?
How's your barber doing?
Well, we'll see.
But
Floby.
Floby. There you go.
bring us up to speed and where we're at and what's the future hold.
Well, there's a big questions there. Well, we know what the future holds as far as for the first Monday of next week, which is week 2 of the, since there's only two business work days in this week 1 of what the governor proclaimed as far as opening our state back up. I like a lot of the thoughts that's went into what he has put in there, and I know he's gotten a lot of good guidance. Next week we start looking at small businesses opening up. Those are ones that are 10 employees or less. We also looking at hair salons, barbershops. Definitely by appointment and walk in one at a time. The beauticians, I've talked to a couple of them. It's going to be concerns of, what's that protective personal gear that they're going to wear. Certainly masks. Whereas our governor is not mandated across the state, I feel that one of the best protective measures that we have against each other is wearing masks when we're in close proximities to each other. As far as I know, I don't think any of our beauticians, barbers have long enough arms that they can stay 6 feet away from the person they're cutting their hair. So working with them, certainly they do not come under our permitting, but places such as tattoo places, they're under small businesses, so most of those do have the 10 or less people, so they would be looking at probably opening up next week. That's certainly a recommendation. It's not a requirement. But also the bigger one is the outdoor dining areas for restaurants that do have tables available outside. One thing we're stressing to people right now is if your original plan that you have for your restaurant did not involve outdoor seating, you have to submit a plan review to us to be able to incorporate that outdoor seating, because it's not been reviewed by our sanitarians, so it's not part of your floor plan as far as seating area. So that comes into play with how many seats you have. We want to make sure that good guidance is given to them as far as having tables a certain amount of distance apart, and then certainly for the staff that are working there wearing mask coverings, increased sanitizing, glove usage, all those things in place that our sanitarians are going to work with them best as possible. But certainly it's not a requirement for places to get open. What we feel the biggest difference is going to be when we get to that 3 to 6 week category, because we don't really know what is going to be in week 3 or 4 or 5 or 6. That guidance will be given to us hopefully by the end of this week, if not the first of next week, to incorporate for those 3 to 6. But that's when we start opening up governmental offices. That's when we start opening up retail stores and parks and fitness centers, recreational centers, dine-in restaurants, hotels. We don't have casinos, but certainly those are in our restaurants, spas, massage parlors, and any other small businesses that may be above 10. One of the things that we need to make sure that people are aware of, that as we open up, the emergency rule that was put in place by the state, which delineates how many people you can have per 1,000 square foot, has not been rescinded as far as we know. That may happen, but right now, if you are not an establishment that is serving or selling 80% of more your sales from grocery sales, you fall into the 2 people per 1,000 square foot of your facility. That has not been removed. Restaurants, they serve food. It's not grocery sales, and that's what the emergency rule says. It does have a 5-year sunset date. That does not mean, most people think, well, this is going to be in place now for 5 years. They have to put that in there, but it can be rescinded. It just has not happened yet. So when we start looking at places, they're still going to be limited to the amount of people they can have in place until that rule, that CSR rule, and I don't have the exact number with me, but it is on the health department's website and their Facebook page. Until that rule is rescinded, it's still going to be based on that minimal or maximum amount of people that you can have in there. If you are 1,000 square feet, the rule does state that you can have up to 5 people in there, including employees.
That's today, but that's how it's gonna be.
That's going to be how it's going to be until that emergency rule is rescinded.
I thought maybe it was going to 10, okay.
The rule does not state that, but it does go if you have 3,000 square feet, certainly you can have 6. You have 4,000, you can have 8. So if you have 5,000 square feet, you can have 10. The rule does not. The rule basically does give a minimum amount of 5 people, but it very distinctly stipulates including employees. So need to be cautious about that. Some of our places that we've worked with consider they've been closed, but they have a bunch of to-go drivers that are in their store, in their restaurant, waiting on orders to come in to deliver. They have dishwashers, they have chefs or cooks, they have managers. You still can only have a certain amount of places, and if you're not large enough to accommodate that amount of people, they have to stay outside.
And even if they are large enough, 90% of them can't pay their bills on that amount of head count.
It is going to be very difficult for restaurants to be able to make it until that rule is rescinded. In looking at how things work, or at least how we like to see things work, we believe that rule will be rescinded at some point here in the near future. But right now, as it stands today, it has not.
So the staff, the environmental staff, will be charged with going out to these places to make sure that these conditions are being met.
As they're doing their compliance inspections, they will be reviewing that for an amount of people that's in there until that rule is reversed, yes. Makes a little extra work on us, but that's one of the main things we can get across is you still have to limit, you still have to do social distancing, you still have to maintain that space between. I'm seeing some of our larger stores that are open that is really good to see that people are not being allowed in the store above their maximum capacity according to their square footage. But what I'm seeing also, sometimes they're outside and they're really close to each other waiting to get in that store. And only when I was there the other day, only about a third of those people were wearing masks, and sometimes they were only a foot or two away from the person in front of them. So if you're not both wearing masks and there's that person in front of you that's not symptomatic, they don't know they had COVID, they have COVID-19, but they can very well be infectious, can turn around, talk to you, or sneeze, cough. Those droplets are going to get spread, and you may become a asymptomatic person, or you can become very symptomatic. And I think a lot of people do not realize that. But then it's good to see also when you go out to the stores, and you do see the tape there, so the stores are making an effort to keep people 6 foot apart. But still, you can only go so far to get people to realize what they need to do.
That's not just that, they have the arrows pointing which way they go. People come in, it's clear and clear, and then they go someplace else.
Yes. A lot of misconceptions are out there. They feel that the health department mandated those arrows to be placed down there. No, we didn't mandate it, but good practice. Some people have put out there, well, if you don't do this, the health department's going to come in and arrest you. No, that's another false statement. We don't have arresting authority, but we do. We know people that do, and they can be fined. But for the most part, people are being very compliant. I really think that's why our numbers are not higher than what we anticipated, and that's across the state. That's not just in Berkeley County. That's across the state. We have, as of last night, our numbers were 146 positives in Berkeley County, and I believe with Morgan County, they did go up to 11 this morning. So the numbers are not increasing drastically each day, but then also lots of people are being tested, and they're asking the health department, why can't we get the information of how many people were actually tested. That information is not provided to us. We are working with the state to get that number so we can release that so people can see it on our Facebook page, because we do a daily update, how many people have been positive, how many people that we have on our records that's been recovered, which we have one of our physicians review those each and every day, that when people come off of the tracing or the surveillance, and that we feel they've completely recovered, those names in the files provided to the health officer, he reviews those, and if appropriate, he'll remove them, and then they go on our stats as far as recovered. But we don't have anything that shows us exactly how many people have been tested in Berkeley County or are residents of Berkeley County. But we're working on that. It's one of our goals to be able to provide. I guess one of the last things that I would like to ask, and I think we have done an incredible job, not only the council, the city of Martinsburg, and the health department working together. And a few odd weeks ago, seems like forever ago, we created a document that enhanced the restrictions that the state had in place in regards to hotels and motels, in regards to, and the state has already changed it in regards to how many people can be in a location. We were, as far as I know, the first county to do that in our state, and then it kind of spread to other counties, and then we'd like to take credit that the state actually took what we did and developed a more enhanced document for that emergency rule. But I think in response to that, I think we're at a place that we can now say we can remove those enhanced restrictions, specifically when you're looking at hotels and motels, as far as what we had initially required them to have a minimum of 14-day stay, because that was that was kind of around the 2-week quarantine period that the governor initially talked about. So our guidance was looking at that unless there was an emergency situation or somebody was traveling in or got displaced, if they were doing essential businesses. We looked at those. I think we're at the point now that that we can look at rescinding that, and then now at this point for that emergency ordinance is it just now continue to follow what the state's recommendations are as far as hotels and motels. I know that is in week 3 to 6 as far as hotels and motels. Not exactly sure where they will, what they will look at as far as for those hotels. But I think as a county, with our emergency ruling that we did, I think we're at the point where we can remove that and those restrictions and just follow what the state guidelines are. I think we've gotten past that. People have been compliant with that. The hotel owners have been very compliant. Actually, some of them a little bit really strict. They contacted us and said, we're not going to let them stay. Well, it's okay to let that person stay. They may have been burned out, or they may have had an emergency displaced, or they're traveling into the air guard. People have really listened, and so they contact us for those exceptions for those people. But I think we're at the point now, we've gotten far enough away that we can now just adhere to the state guidance as we continue to try to look at reopening our state. So that's one of the things I would request that that our joint resolution or order that was put in there, that I think we're at the point where we can suspend that now, pending the additional changes that our numbers don't drastically increase. And the last thing that I had on my notes is, as you look at the governor's, what his opening of the state, some of the things that have not been looked at as far as an opening date, I think that will change. But certain things such as nursing home visitations and entertainment venues such as movie theaters, sporting events, concerts, and especially for gatherings of larger than 25 people. That is that's one of the big ones for us, because as Councilman Barnhart can testify to, this is the time of year that normally the health department's getting inundated with swimming pool permit requests. And at this point, we're not even permitting those until we can feel that things are safe enough. And a lot of places aren't even open in their permits. But it's kind of hard to social distance in a public pool, and to ensure that, you know, even if you're going to have less than 25 people in there, it's not cost effective to have those open. So we're not looking at those yet. As guidelines come down, we will look at them in the future. But right now, we're not even permitting swimming pools. So that's kind of my update for this week.
Anybody have any questions for Bill on what he wanted to do?
No, I conversation with Steve, it's gonna cost like 200 to make things break even, and like 25 or 50 doesn't make it economical. So, I agree with Bill on that.
But
Yeah.
our discussions, there's many people that's not gonna be able to afford to.
Right.
And because they'll go backwards, but one thing I'll say is early on, the Berkeley County Health Department, always has, and I think has had a good working relationship with the county council. And during these tough times and tough decisions being made, the recommendations coming from the health department, Dr. Reedy and Bill, has been things that we need to do. And the county council has cooperated, and we're looking forward to movement in the right direction today that we're doing, and hopefully be able to expand upon that with caution. And hopefully everyone remembers that just times are different. We need to be a little different, but if we're showing progress, we'll continue on this roadmap. So I want to thank Bill and Dr. Reedy for working very hard and long hours on this, and very passionate about making the right decisions. So thank you for doing that.
I think it's going to be with the outside, and I was just thinking about that while we're talking. I think with the outside dining, I don't know. I mean, if it's a small group, I with this emergency rule in place, I don't even know how you could do it without with a very big group, because you've got to have, if you got a couple thousand square foot building and you've got 5 people in a couple thousand square foot building, you got to have somebody waiting tables, you got to have somebody cooking food, you got to have somebody cleaning. You got to, and you can only do 4 because you got to have a one for the bathroom so that people can come in and use the bathroom one at a time. So I mean, it really difficult to even operate a restaurant under those conditions.
I feel that they can, if they look at removing or dispensing with that emergency rule, I think certainly plans can be in place that you can maintain that distance between tables, but not say have it based on the square footage of your facility.
Right.
I think definitely you can have a mixture of both. Certainly, I still think that's going to create a little bit of hardship on restaurants that they depend on having a larger amount of people in there to make things work financially for them. But certainly we're at a point now, restaurants have a good clientele to go. And as many people have said, we don't feel that people are going to rush back into those restaurants. But now you're going to have some of those people that can come in there, but also that good mixture of people that have gotten accustomed to their takeout orders. So,
Thanks, Bill. Good job you guys been doing.
thank you.
We-
All right, thank you.
Mr. Bentley or Alan, one of them.
Bill?
Brian, you want to come up for give us your update, and if you have anything? Seems like everything's been going okay from the email that I read. And you understand I don't respond to emails not unless you tell me you want to respond. So
Yeah.
I did read them.
That's good.
I see your budget requests and adjustments. So
Yeah, it's we're going to hopefully get approval to make some adjustments, but a lot of good news. It was a good week last week. No quarantines for the past 2 weeks. We've had over 108 encounters for patients throughout the county that fell in that criteria that could be what we call PUIs. So that's a pretty good percentage, no matter how you break down the numbers. Our PPE usage is up slightly right now, and that's because of the criteria that the hospitals are putting on us to have PPE on when we enter the facility at all times. So that was something that wasn't out before that has changed. So we'll continue to monitor our daily usage, continue to order, do what we need to do accordingly. We have kind of added an additional focus, not just the COVID piece, but we're really now focused on the overdoses. As I told you last week, we're seeing those overdoses rise. I just happened to be out and about the county the other day and run an overdose call that came in as cardiac arrest. But So we're working with the Bridges program and the core team to figure out how we, in this time and in these restrictions, how do we begin to make stuff work for us? So we're continuing to really work that. I know my chief, Chad Weinbrenner, was working on that earlier today. We are continuing our limited exposure work schedule, and it's probably one of the guidance that we're looking to hear from you guys, what the county's plan is moving forward with what's going on, so we look forward to hear that. And the last thing I think is is more or less a statement and a question on itself. I don't want there to be any confusion that the Ambulance Authority was under the impression that the DOJ grant was just an Ambulance Authority grant. We've always, from the day of our first meeting back on the 3rd of April with both Chief Gokenauer, Randy Lilly, Chief Weinbrenner, and myself, it was always a public safety grant. I went back to my correspondence with 410 and 427 to make sure I didn't make a mistake. But we've always known that's a county grant. We're a part of that. And the only question that I have, if there's some changes to those expenditures that are being made, please let us know so that we can adjust things that we have, that if something in that quest isn't going to be funded, we can find other funding mechanisms to do it. So
The reason I asked that question this morning, Brian, was mainly who was the recipient of that grant?
Yeah.
Because that's the one that's gonna have to do all the reporting of expenditures and stuff like that,
So we actually kind of reversed engineered this a little bit. We put all that, we had a number from Rachel when we kind of put all the paperwork together, said here was the cost analysis. I think we had pretty much budgeted everything except 91 cents, and she was upset with us because we couldn't find something for that 91 cents. But so that was kind of easy from that perspective, and that's why I asked the question I did, because we knew we had done that, and we just wanted to make sure that.
So what expenditures, dollar amount, roughly do you have out there right now?
Well, like I said, we worked on this combined with
Right.
Eddie and those guys. So the total expenditure was the 40,850 something, 850 was 845 and some change, I think,
For everyone?
for everybody.
Right, but I mean, I know we've expended, after yesterday, probably about 50 grand of our own money
Yeah.
and masks.
Yeah.
Right, so.
And that's what
So that's what I'm saying, we want to make sure that we do this appropriately to make sure that most, if not all of our expenses are covered.
And that's the thing, is bear in mind, as I told you guys before, the Ambulance Authority received an HHS grant of $66,000. Now that goes to pay for COVID testing and patients and things like that, as well as PPE. So
Okay.
if we find that, I know that, like I said, the county council was gracious enough to give us that PPE and not put a bill on it, but if we need to bill it, we do have the funds there that we could cover that piece of the puzzle if that's what needs to happen. But that was just my question when I heard that earlier, is like, do we need to adjust fire and look at funding other places, and how will that change? We would just like to know, as things get expended, what we need to change our position on, try to find, because we had those Clorox machines and things in there as well.
Right, yeah, we definitely want to, try to get some, I know you need some, it'd be nice, Al and I talked, it'd be nice for the sheriff's department to have one, and the animal control to have one, so.
I know in there we allocated for 2, and I know Eddie and his guys for Homeland Security. We had one for ourselves. We had PAPRs in there for each law enforcement, fire, EMS. Numerous Tyvek suits, gowns, N95 cartridges, all the consumables and things like that.
Yeah, so I guess it would be a communication path between everyone, including Mr. Davis, on making sure that we are able to get maximum reimbursement from all this stuff.
Yeah, that's the key. And like I said, for me, it's just, do we have to adjust fire on what we're looking at or what we're thinking? But I think the last thing that was really probably a concern for us is, I know everybody's been reading about the VA Medical Center and things going on out there, and we're concerned that we're not getting a lot of information out of there. And I know they're really a regional facility. You're talking about multiple states, multiple counties that these people are coming from, but they have to understand they're a surrogate part of us because those employees still come here every day. And that's a concern of ours if that virus begins to hit them hard, we need to be aware of that. And we were getting information out of there up until last Friday, and then everything just kind of went silent. There's a big media storm, various senators reaching out to the Secretary of the VA and, this Adam Longo guy out of WUSA 9 that's really hammering them pretty good, and all of a sudden it just cut short. So I talked to Bill Kern. We're still not sure whether they're getting the information or not. So we're hoping that somebody's getting that information to kind of keep an eyeball on that so that we know what's going on out there. And anybody you may be able to talk to get that information, that would help out too. Other than that, subject to any questions that you guys may have.
I think we're good. I mean, we're hearing things at state, Dan and I've been in this meeting regularly with the health department and just trying to hope and pray that we're going to phase back in and nothing erupts.
That's good. Well, we look forward to hearing that.
Yeah.
And I do have questions.
Yes.
So, I'm assuming all these PPEs that you're using right now with the Tyvek suits, you guys generally always have those, don't you?
We do. We do have a stockpile, and we're constantly ordering. We're constantly sending things to the state every 2 weeks through the EOC. When purchases are made here, the EOC, of course, allocates stuff for us. So I think we're focused on what we're doing now. As I told you last week, we went into an agreement with Berkeley Medical Center to disinfect masks, which are the primary piece of PPE that they want us to have when we go into the hospital. If this is just not everybody has COVID now.
Right.
Chest pain is still chest pain. But yet they still want us to have a mask on our patient, mask on our providers going into that hospital. So that seems to be the big single item that we're expending as far as utilizing. The good thing is you can use that mask for a full shift as long as you don't encounter a COVID patient. Seal it away, put it in a tote, we take it up, have it disinfected, and put it back into service up to 6 times. So you're looking at about 48 hours of usage out of a single mask. So that's helping tremendously. But we're continuing to build a stockpile. As we were talking outside, when I think of strategic stockpiles, I think about my time at Walter Reed. You go into a Connex and you see pallets of boxes of N95 masks. You don't see 20 masks and 15 gallons. So
Right.
that's our plan. We're looking at probably for the ambulance authority, looking at maybe finding a climate-controlled space that we can build our own stockpile over the course of these next few months, should this come back and visit us again.
Right, and that was where my question was going, is that, obviously you guys always have had those and have to continue, but are you looking for a larger stockpile moving forward with the situation that we've had? Obviously, it brings a whole new thought process in when you're looking at having a reserve.
I think we look at it twofold. What can we work with the EOC jointly to have as a service for the county? And what we need, we would believe, for an initial outbreak for the ambulance authority. And that's the piece that we focus on when I said looking for that climate control, maybe 5x8 facility or something, that we could begin to have our own stockpile that we have eyes on, hands on, can inventory, and actually get our hands on. The one thing that we do have that we may utilize is we still have that trailer from the rapid response team provided to us by the state that we're required to maintain but don't get any funding for. We may say, hey, this is going to become our COVID-19 storage place. We'll make it work.
What about our file rooms in the 750? I mean, is there a possibility to create something or put a locker in there or something to be able to?
I think the best spot possibly for them would be at 802. They got, all that, the whole building climate
It
control.
would be hard, we're putting split units in 750.
But
Try to accommodate some of the storage that we have down there. I'm not sure. If Brian and I have talked, as you know, yesterday we were 535 masks, 1,095 masks. Our intent, working with the authority and the sheriff's department, and you'll see is, as Brian said, that we can make sure that we're not on flat footed and really in all surge and stuff. Okay. So we want to get our own stockpile together. Not only does it have to become, money does have to be funded, that it's not infested with mice.
Right.
I'm not sure 750 will be in place, but there are spots down at 802 that I think develop into and that would be the ideal spot for you.
yeah, and I was just thinking outside the box. You know, I mean, I know there's a big box down there basically to put a. You know, you can buy metal containers that are sealed metal containers that are like a 10 by 10 room or something and put it in a place. But wherever, I think it's obviously something that we got to look at and have some type of central location to be doing that.
And just so you know, the 7,095 masks used all over very carefully, using the exercise and abundance of caution. Of course, forward through this first phase of the that we have
Alright.
Anything else?
Any questions for Brian or anything like that?
All right, thank you.
Thanks for what you do, Brian.
Alright, Mr. Davis.
just a couple of things, and I know Norwood has an order.
As the council is aware from some emails earlier this week, we have received notification from the West Virginia Supreme Court that they intend to open the courtrooms as judicial centers on May the 18th, which is 4 weeks from this coming Monday. So I have met with Mike Lang, and we have a plan in place. The next grand jury is scheduled for May the 26th. I did receive an email, or we did receive an email from Judge Lawrenson this morning that says he intends to go through with the grand jury as scheduled. So based on the current restrictions that are in place, we could not accommodate the grand jury in any of our buildings because of social distancing. So we have worked with Parks and Recreation, and we will be doing grand jury, and the judge has agreed to it, and the prosecuting attorney has agreed to it, and certainly we have some logistical things to figure out with our court marshals, but we'll actually be doing grand jury in the gymnasium of one of Parks and Recreation facilities. So we do have that taken care of. The only other matter, and I know Norwood has an order that he wants to discuss with you. The only other matter I asked the council to consider is, if you will recall, about a month ago, you did pass an order affecting emergency scheduling of employee time. You passed it on April the 6th and it became effective on Tuesday, April the 7th. And what you did is you provided 80 hours of sick time to each full-time employee. And then we staggered our workforce where for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of that week, which would have been the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th, half of the workforce worked. The other half sheltered in place at home. The following week, it was switched so that over the past month, we've had half of our workforce here providing essential services and the other half of the workforce sheltering at home. And it was 80 hours for all departments except for the assessor's office, who received 70 hours of additional sick time. That time that you provided to employees actually will expire this coming Monday, the 4th, so that the first group of employees that were off at Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th, they're actually entitled to their last day of the 80 days this coming Monday. 80 hours, I'm sorry, this coming Monday. Based on the governor's schedule, recovery schedule, public facilities will not be open until the 3rd week, which will be Monday, April the 11th. So we have 4 days, or May 11th, I'm sorry. So we have 4 days that we have to address. So I'm requesting that the council extend your current order for 4 additional days. 40-hour employees would get 16 additional days of sick time, hours of sick time, and
What'd you drink?
and assessor's office will get 14 additional hours of sick time. That'll run us through next week. So, and then the intent is on Monday, April the 11th, May the 11th, that we open for full service. And if you don't agree with that, then we will expect all employees to report back on Tuesday, the 5th.
Mr. Davis and I talked about this morning, and I felt, governor's projections of getting the recovery back up and running at full capacity on May the 11th. 16, 14 hour would accommodate that. And that's actually also when the city of Martinsburg's time is ready to be expired too.
Correct.
So it would be the city and the county on the same schedule at that point in time. I think it's a great idea that Mr. Davis came up with, and urge us to support his recommendation. So is everybody okay with that?
And we do have the order ready. We have to tweak it a little bit. If you could sign it before you leave.
So do we want a motion on that order, Mr.? I'm sorry? We want a motion on that to approve that order or adopt the order, whichever one it is.
So moved.
Motion been made, seconded. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
And you'll notice that the order in front of you uses 40 hours and 35 hours. I will change that to 16 and 14. But if you go ahead and sign it, that change only needs to be made on the first page. The second order you have in front of you is, I think, consistent with what Bill Kearns indicated to you. It rescinds your earlier order of April 4th in its entirety, and indicates that all residents and visitors to the county shall comply with the directives currently articulated in the most recent executive orders of Governor Justice, provided that the same may be modified by you and the health department as determined appropriate if there are any changes to be made. Effective immediately. Dr. Reedy's tied up in the hospital today, so probably he may be able to sign the order this evening, but probably it won't be signed by him until tomorrow, but nonetheless, it will be effective today. So I'd like you to adopt that order also.
Motion's been made, seconded. Any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you, Mr.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Mr. Davis, you have some state budget revisions and ground maintenance contract.
Yes, sir. If the council will allow, In your packet is state budget revision number 10. Since the state budget revision that we did at the end of March, we have received 29 checks and ACHs totaling $314,921. Just a few disbursements of note. We did receive $5,000 from the state of West Virginia for reimbursement to the county clerk of records management, some record books. We also received 2 checks, both in the amount of $6,338 for a total of $12,676, which is our Federal Department of Justice reimbursement for court-martial ballistic vest. We've received our reimbursement for the safer firefighters at Baker Heights that are assigned to Baker Heights in the amount of $32,337, and then we received reimbursement from the state of West Virginia in the amount of $37,430 for the ACEID equipment, which is on our regional response truck, which is some of the equipment that the council agreed to purchase. It is a 100% reimbursable grant that we had to pay for up front, and we're now getting the reimbursement for the equipment. As you can see, as far as the distribution of the grant funding, $5,000 will go into the county clerk's budget. $16,000 will go in uniforms for court security to reimburse that fund for the ballistic vest. We received a payment for IT services of $17,661, which will go in supplies, materials for information technology. Our two engineers were scheduled to attend some continuing education, which was canceled, so there's a refund of $220, which will go back into the training line item of engineering. Slightly more than $47,000 will go into contingency, $4,784 to be redeposited in law enforcement overtime, $89,767 into emergency services, which is again, the safer firefighter reimbursement, as well as the $37,430 in capital outlay, the grant reimbursement, and $134,370 in the day report center. Many of the checks that we received in ACHs are reimbursement through CARA or the state of West Virginia DHHR for supplies and services and employees.
Okay. We need a motion to approve state budget revision number 10, Fund 001.
Second.
Motion been made, second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries.
The final matter that I have for your consideration has to do with our 2021 grounds maintenance contracts. As you know, over the course of years, as our community service program continues to evolve and mature, all grounds maintenance other than Pikeside Waterway and Sportsman's Paradise is now done through community service. Last spring, we did bid out the maintenance of Pikeside Waterway and Sportsman's Paradise. The low bidder for Pikeside was Tinsman's Landscaping, which is located in Hedgesville. Their low bid was $345 per mowing. The low bid for Sportsman's Paradise was C&D Property Management at $494 per mowing. All mowing is done on an as-needed basis, based on the assessment of Jack Lang, your facilities director. It was a one-year contract with the option to renew for 2 out years. We did reach out to both Tinsman's Landscaping and C&D Property Management, who did a wonderful job for us last year and this spring already. asking them if they wanted to renew their contract for the first of the 2 out years, which runs from July 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2021. C&D Property Management responded in the affirmative and agreed to keep their price per mowing at $494. Tinsman's Landscaping would like to continue to maintain Pikeside Waterway. They have increased their request from $345 per mowing to $370 per mowing, and even at the $370, they are still below the second lowest bid for Pikeside Waterway. So our recommendation, I've discussed the contract renewal with Mr. Lang. He and I agree that the current grounds maintenance contractors have done a very, very good job and have been very responsive to our needs. So we're requesting that the council extend each contract for 1 additional year at the rates listed from July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021.
All right, entertain a motion on Mr. Davis's recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? The motion carries.
That's all
I'll
I have.
abstain from that vote.
All right. Need a motion to go in executive session for real estate and possible county council personnel. We are in executive session.
Here's your sign. I said, here's your sign.
We're out of executive section. No action will be taken, so, Mr. Barnhart, if you do,
Mr. President, we can recess.
we are recessed.